This is the Horse Radio Network.
You're listening to The Stall and Stable Show, ideas for happy horsekeeping.
The saying goes, if you ask 10 different horse people how to do something, you'll get 10 different answers. Well, I decided to put that adage to the test and ask 10 different horse people their opinions about what qualifies for happy horsekeeping. Those 10 people happen to be my Horse Radio Network colleagues, all horse professionals in some way, shape, or form, and all with a similar horse-first philosophy when it comes to keeping, training, and competing their horses. I'm excited to share our conversations with you in this special HRN host series. So listen in. This is episode 82 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by Load Trail, American-made dump and utility trailers with features that make barn life easier. Today's Thursday, October 21st, 2021. I'm your host, Helena Harris. Buck and I are big fans of our Load Trail dump trailer. Our horse property is small, so keeping the barn and paddocks free from flies and odors is really important. Having a dump trailer on site makes transporting manure off property easier than I ever thought possible. And the energy it saves by doing the heavy lifting for us means we have more energy for our horses and our family. The trailer is a breeze to hook up. It tows like a charm and is as heavy duty as they come. We have zero tolerance for equipment that can't handle serious, everyday use. But our Load Trail trailer shows up for work every day, like a boss. For a list of trailer types and dealers near you, head over to loadtrail.com or follow them on Facebook and Instagram. My first guest in this unique HRN series is Joy Orr of Retired Racehorse Radio. Joy grew up in the Great Lakes state of Michigan. She was born with the horse-crazy gene, with both her parents owning and riding horses. At the age of 6, Joy had a traumatic riding accident that left her with severe PTSD. But her love of horses never faded. Instead, she spent her free time helping in the barn, grooming, and sitting in the field, observing how horses communicated with each other. Years later, a friend took her on a trail ride that would ignite the spark that she has today. To not just become an accomplished rider, but to also overcome her own fears and mental blocks while helping others to do the same. Her mantra: never let anyone dull your sparkle, not even yourself. Joy's mission is to use horses as an outlet for people who may be struggling with self-confidence. Ex-racehorses are the perfect subject matter for her, as the struggle to define one's own worth is often a similar path that racehorses find themselves on when they're no longer able to run. While the questions Joy and I had planned to discuss were about best practices in horsekeeping, our conversation took a deeper dive into one aspect of horse care that is as essential as all the others: self-care. So let's welcome Joy to the show and find out how she found the perfect boarding barn and what she's learned about how to be a good partner to Astrid, her off-track thoroughbred mare. Hi, Joy, and welcome to Stall and Stable.
Hi, Helena. It's so great to be here.
I'm delighted to have you on, but I'm even more delighted that you are now an official part of the Horse Radio Network. You are the co-host of Retired Racehorse Radio, or Triple R.
Yes.
For our listeners who don't know that show, tell us quickly about what it is. What do you cover?
Absolutely. So we're like a niche inside of a niche is how I like to tell people about our show. So we advocate for the adoption, aftercare, and retraining of any ex-racehorse, whether we focus really heavily on thoroughbreds just because they are so prominent in our disciplines. And now they're in the Western world, the English world, but we also are bringing in standardbreds who are gaining popularity in the US for sure. They have popularity in Canada and a lot of popularity we found out in Australia. And we've also featured ex-Arabians who have been racehorses. We had quarter horses on, and we even had a greyhound episode. So we really try to focus on all of these animals who've had a previous career and what it takes to get them into their second careers and find them loving homes. And we're partnered with the Retired Racehorse Project and New Vocations.
Two of my favorite organizations. They do such a good job. They've really set the standard for any other type of rehoming organization, adoption, rescue, transitional organizations. You have a thoroughbred?
I do. I've had her for 4 years now. I have a 10-year-old off the track thoroughbred, little chestnut mare named Astrid. Although she's not that little anymore. When I got her, she was 15.1 and quite tiny. And now we're 16 hands and a cinnamon roll.
Wow, cinnamon roll. Is she your typical chestnut mare? Now I say this is a loaded question because I don't think any horse is typical, really. But there are some breed dispositions. There are some things about thoroughbreds that make them thoroughbreds.
Yes.
What's her disposition like?
In a lot of ways, she is not your stereotypical, social media punchline chestnut mare. She's very in your pocket. I've seen her pin her ears maybe twice in 4 years of owning her. And it's normally other horses who want attention for me. I kind of joke like she's kind of like Veronica D'Angelo to a degree. If anyone knows Saddle Club, you'll know if you've seen it. But she loves attention. She knows what a camera is. She knows what the phone is. She loves anyone's attention anytime. She's just very in your pocket, very eager. It wasn't always that way. She's a little bit aloof in the beginning when I first got her. And so we really encouraged curiosity, rewarding for looking at something that's new, rewarding for kind behaviors. And so now, she searches everyone's pockets for snacks, and she loves meeting new people. So she's just such a lovely horse, and she gets along with any horse you put her with. There's no horse that she's not sure about or gets into fights with. She's happy with everyone, which is amazing.
So I have a theory about that. I do believe that our horses are a reflection of the environment we create for them, including the relationship we have with them. So you're such a conscientious horse person. I can't see any of your horses being any other way than what you just described Astrid as. But tell us about a day in the life of your horse. Do you keep her at home? Do you board her somewhere? What kind of work do you do? Let's start with where you keep her.
Yeah, so currently I do board her out. I have had my horses at home in the past, and we're happy to go through both sides of the spectrum there. But right now I do board her. We just moved to an eventing barn a week ago. We were at a very quiet, kind of more trail-centered barn. It was because I made a cross-state move and it was in my budget. And I wanted something that I guess I could really refocus. I was going through a lot of life changes. So having that quiet barn, my horse, I love 24/7 turnout for my horses. That's so important to me. I think it's amazing for their mental health, especially thoroughbreds. The more turnout, the better, in my opinion. It's great for gastrointestinal health. It's great for hoof health. It's just in general, some people are going to argue it, but to me, it's the best. So I've had her on 24/7 turnout and she does so well on it. I really make sure the pastures are green. I always inspect that for any boarding barn. Go late of summer, early fall, and see what those conditions are like, because then you'll know if it's a good place for your horse if you can. So yeah,
Great advice.
Yes, I highly recommend doing that. Don't look at the first of spring; it tells you nothing. So we moved to this eventing barn because I was ready to have community aspect. I had gone through a lot of the changes, gone through a lot of therapy this last year as well. And I just felt like we've reached this growth state that we were ready to enter the world as this new partnership. We had a safe partnership where we could just be with each other. And now it was time to introduce ourselves to others. So I picked up a very busy barn. My joke has been I took a homeschool kid and put her in the biggest, busiest high school possible with like no support. The first week was very interesting. The barn's phenomenal, positive energy. They have a very strong youth program. I wouldn't say like they're competitive, but in like almost an educational way. It's like always just be your best self, get a little bit better for you, but you don't have to come home with the blue. Like if you didn't place that day, if you got a disqualification that day, no one's mad, no one's yelling at you. It's just be your best self is kind of the general energy. And that's what I was looking for. And like this Friday coming up, they're doing an adults ride only. So with wine slushies and cider and donuts and just a chance for people to meet other people. And that's what I'm looking for.
Now, how did you find this place? Because it sounds really nice.
Yes, I feel like I got very lucky. I'm part of a Facebook group in Michigan called Michigan Boarding. And I just put up an ad saying like, this is kind of what we're looking for. I'm ready for a change. And the main things I was looking for was adequate turnout, 24/7 pasture, with access to water that was in either heated buckets or an automated watering system, had shelter. And I'm in Michigan, so it's always nice to have an indoor, but I didn't have an indoor for the majority of my horse years. So I'm used to going either way, but I knew I needed at least one decent riding arena. Our previous barn, it did have an indoor, but it was quite small. Most of their horses were either Arabs or small quarter horses, and they were trail riding. So it was kind of just a place to hop on and warm up your horse. Yeah. When I have a 16-hand thoroughbred who's still learning how to balance herself, and our canter is still one giant leap and then softens, we're running into the wall constantly.
Oh my God, I feel so seen.
Yes. I feel like if anyone were to watch our riding, you'll feel much prouder about yourself.
It's true about having that space. You don't know what you need until you kind of grow out of something and you leap into something new and you're like, oh my God, how did I live without this much space? Especially with thoroughbreds who half the time you're riding their mind so that you can ride their body.
Yes, exactly. Right? Exactly. And so I kind of put this wish list, but the number one thing is I'm looking for community. I'm looking for fireside chats, going on trail rides, potluck dinners. And I'm even happy to coordinate. I volunteered myself just because that's what I was really missing, is some sort of community, having riding buddies, having someone to push us or bring new ideas to the table. And luckily someone reached out. She said, hey, I have this new barn that I've opened. It was so much closer to my other barn. It was a 45-minute commute one way, which in the winter, that's going to become an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the snow. And now I found a place that was 30 minutes. So checked it out. She was very new, just bought the place. They were in full renovation when I got there. And it's it's close. It's got some of the things, but not everything. And I was like, do you have any recommendations? She's like, well, I train at this other barn, and which ended up being 15 minutes from my house. And
that's the one you landed
That's
at?
Where we landed. It had everything I was looking for. Everything.
How many horses are on the property?
There's about 30. And what I love is there's no more than 4 horses per pasture, and they're quite large pastures. My horse and hers, there's 3 other very low-key mares in there. I know, shocker that they even exist, but they're all very low-key and relaxed. And they have woods and hills. She came in, I made a reel on my Instagram of her just covered in burrs. So we did a self-care Saturday is what I called it. And, but she was out exploring and enjoying herself. And that's what horses like. That's instinctual, to go out and forage and look for things. And so for me to have that in a pasture at a boarding barn, that's going to be so good for her mental health, to give her those little exercises when I'm not there to work her.
Yeah, she gets to socialize as well. Mm-hmm. She gets to express her curiosity, maybe get brave, maybe have the comfort of friends.
Yes, yeah.
So what kind of shelter do they have? If it's 24/7 access to pasture, are there run-ins or?
Yeah, it's a 3-sided shed. It's quite large. There's enough, I would say comfortably 5 to 6 average size horses. So knowing there's not going to be more than 4 horses in there, they all have plenty of space to, whether they want to snuggle up, they can, or if they want some space in there, they can. And then they also had the automated waters, and it's a new one I've never seen before. It was, it almost has this floating ball on the top of it, and the horses have to push this ball to get access to the water, and it keeps ice from forming on it. And I was like, I don't know, she's going to figure that out. And so they have to push it down to access the water. And she thinks it's a game. And it's so fun to watch. And I've just never thought of it that way before, but it's pretty brilliant.
It sounds like your horse has everything she needs physically to be comfortable, socially to be comfortable. You have everything. It sounds like you look so comfortable when you're talking about this.
I'm so excited. So because their pasture is very luscious with very green grass right now, she's strictly on grass, no additional hay unless I provide it. So I do before working my horse, I do like to get a flake of hay for them to eat during grooming. Some people wouldn't agree with that, but for me, I think it really coats their stomach, especially in off the track thoroughbred. They tend to be very prone to ulcers. So having that flake of alfalfa that they can kind of munch on while you're grooming them out is just a really nice step. If I don't grain before I ride, And then I do grain her after working her. So the other horses, because they get fat off air out there, they don't all have grain. So I go out and I feed my horse her supplements there.
What does she need for supplements?
I pretty much just have her in a joint supplement and then a flaxseed. So she's a very easy keeper. I'm very lucky. Not all thoroughbreds are. It doesn't take much for her to get fat, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but mostly good. And then as far as her grain, I just feed her on a low starch, low sugar grain. It's actually by Do More from Tractor Supply, their brand.
So mostly grass, which is great. And then I would imagine then in the wintertime, you switch over to a hay. Okay.
So another nice thing about this barn is they grow their own hay and the quality is so lovely. So it keeps costs low, but also we can keep track of the consistency of the product. And that's very important. If you can do it, I like get your hay tested. I love that they do that here. But yeah, they grow their own hay.
This is like the poster child for everything that you should have in a barn. Like, how you must have said, okay, universe, drop it in my lap because I am due.
Yes. I was very grateful. Again, I feel so lucky to find it, but I think it comes down to making your needs and wants list whenever you're looking for a place to go, or even designing your own barn. And then don't settle. If you don't have to settle, don't do it. Keep looking. You might have to stay at the place that you're at a little longer, as long as your horse is healthy and safe. Don't settle. It's so worth it when you don't.
Yeah. The tiny frustrations that you experience when you do settle, they add up, even though you think they don't, they do inside of you.
Yeah.
They definitely steal your energy. Let's talk about the people. Tell us about your experience with racial diversity, inclusion. Do you feel welcomed?
I'm fairly light-skinned as far as being biracial. And I think in some cases, it's been an easy door opener. Like people don't really know what I am half the time. I've had people think I'm just Italian. I've had people think I'm Middle Eastern. I've had people think I'm obviously Black and white. I mean, it's been all over the spectrum. So no one really knows what to think of me if they first meet me. I've experienced at other barns, people who are darker skinned, and like the eyes are there, the stares are there, because there's a stigma in the horse world that Black people don't ride. And it's not an unwelcoming thing. It's I hate the word ignorance because it sounds so negative, but that's just what it is. You just don't really see it. It'd be no different if I walked in the barn in a clown costume or I dressed my horse up in sparkles and unicorns. That's not the everyday, right?
Like your curiosity.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything negative. I personally never experienced a barn that never made me feel welcome. I know they're out there. I just haven't had that experience yet. I've been to some horse shows where it was questionable, but this barn in particular, I was welcomed immediately, and they didn't know I was coming in to tour out the place just because the head trainer, she had sent me to this barn kind of unannounced, like, just go check it out. It's on your way home. Like they'll be fine with it. And already that tells you like they're pretty welcoming. Like if they're okay with you just dropping in, that's a good sign. I watched their lessons for about 2 to 3 hours. I didn't even let them know that I was looking for a new barn. I was like, oh yeah, just kind of checking out different training programs in the area. Like I didn't say much. And seeing how they treated their horses, how they spoke to their students, how they treated each other as staff, because there's 3 trainers there. And anyone knows when there's multiple trainers at a barn, sometimes it gets competitive or a little territorial. That was not the case. They're very team oriented here. They have a way of dividing the students at different levels and how to do work shifts so everyone gets ride time. I mean, it was so well organized, and you could tell that the community had been built to be supportive. And the one thing I noticed is no one was critical of each other. You'll hear the snide comments on the rails at shows or like different barns of, man, she really needs to keep her heels down, or she doesn't know how to control that horse, or he doesn't know what he's doing. It wasn't like that. So I would say it's so fortunate to see people just coming out and being encouraging and saying, wow, you've really developed on that horse, or I love that new saddle. It looks like you're riding a lot smoother. And to me, that can be a rarity in the horse world, to not compliment enough, to not talk about the growth. They're too busy nitpicking. Well, you need to do this better. And
or letting little comments leak out that reveal their own insecurities. I think your point about watching them how they treat their horses and how they treat one another and the absence of criticism tells us a lot about someone's state of mind. Are they open-minded? Are they progressive? Are they kind? And then it's so awkward for me to say this. It's so awkward for me to make assumptions. But so if I step over a line somewhere, just set me straight. But I feel like when you're kind in your heart and your mind, it doesn't matter what someone's color is or what their background is. You are interested in bringing that person into the fold of what you know. You want to teach them, you want to help them, you're supportive. And I think that energy comes from the top down in a barn. Mm-hmm. Does the leadership have that in their hearts? Are they kind first? And then I would hope that no matter what you look like when you walk into a barn, and I think a lot of overweight riders experience this as well, maybe even with a larger dose of criticism. If you are a person of color, you might be a curiosity, but if you're a person who's not an ideal weight, well, you're not a curiosity, you're something to criticize.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Like, right, so the energy of the leadership in a barn has so much to do with how welcome you feel when you go in.
Absolutely. It really does come from that. And anyone looking for a spot, I would say audit the lesson program, check out what's going on. I think we really focus on health of the horses. Like, are they fat horses? Are they happy horses? Are they on adequate turnout? Are they cribbing? Are they doing these things? Like, watch the riders and how they treat each other and how they treat their horses. Most of the riders are influenced by the trainers and leadership there. So even if you can't meet the barn owner that day, however people are acting in the barn is going to be a real indicator of the culture of that barn if it's something you want to be a part of. And Helena, I love that you brought up overweight riders. I think there's a sensitivity of them, especially a new barn or a new lesson program. The last thing you want to hear is, you are too big to ride this horse, or you need to lose some weight. That's not a helpful comment to bring someone new into it. There's ways to do this. I think any good lesson program has horses of a variety of sizes, because you're going to have a variety of riders. And even if it's not an overweight person, you have a 6'4" guy who wants to come in and ride. You're not going to put him on your 14-hand Arab where he can wrap his legs around its belly. You need the variety in your lesson program to meet anyone of any size, of any personality, if you can. And what I also love about this program is people trust the owners so much that they've even lent their horses to the lesson program to diversify the amount of lesson horses available, but also make sure lesson horses aren't being ridden more than once a day. They're not overworked horses.
You've basically just expanded the definition of horsemanship. It's humanship, how to be a good human. Now, how to be a good horse person is really about first how to be a good human. Some people, like for me, I'm learning every day how to be a better human because I'm so focused on how to be a better horsewoman. And so the two parts of my life inform the other. How can I be kinder to people as I'm thinking about how to be kinder to my horses? So if you were to give some advice to other people in a barn, not people of color, or even skinny people,
or even just females not sexualizing every male rider who comes in the barn.
Exactly. If you're in the majority, you do have that privilege. How can we make people who are different than us feel more comfortable and more welcome?
And it comes down to allyship. And it's such like a broad thing to say. It sounds so easy to do. Like what you're doing now, asking questions in a kind manner. I think that's always welcome. I don't think it makes most people uncomfortable if it's coming from a place of genuineness. One example is I saw on our auditor group, someone was running a lesson program and they had two little girls of color with the very thick curls, thick hair. And she said, how can I make sure they're safe? What types of helmets and how should they wear their hair? I'm not sure as a white rider. How can I encourage the safety, but still embrace this part of them? And I'm like, that's beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Oh my gosh. You asked in the perfect way instead of complaining about this being an issue because you didn't have a solution right away. I think that's where it can get into the weeds of things, like putting it back on the rider, like figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure out what you need to do to make me comfortable. That's the last thing that anyone should do. But the main thing is coming in with a smile, being genuine, ask someone their name and memorize it. I'm awful at it. I'm a little hypocritical right now. Remember your horse before you. I'm just going to say it. But if you can, like, learn that person's name, learn that person's horse, have conversations. If there's an event at the barn, invite them to it. It's just about being welcoming and creating community and being genuine behind it, because people can tell a fake smile. If you're not interested, go back to doing your horse and don't engage.
Right.
That's honestly a better thing you can do than be fake. But if you're here for it, you're here to make friends, you're here to bring more people to the barn, bring more business, because that's the thing too. The more you bring to the sport, the better it is for everyone. Just always have the door open.
I just want to be friends with everybody. So I'm that weird person who's like, hi, what do you do? What's your name? Blah, 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 blah.
I'm a golden retriever,
Right?
Helena, so I get it.
Because the conversation, especially under the Trump administration, had gotten so hot and so tense. And honestly, I am thankful that that man peeled back a scab of something that was festering for a long time that we needed to talk about. We needed to see it so that we can address it. But there was a tension that was created about the conversation. What is acceptable? What is offensive? Like, if I go out of my way to be welcoming or friendly to a person of color, am I actually now making them feel different? Because, for me, it would just be, that's how I treat everyone. But some people do go out of their way. And is that a good thing or is that a more divisive thing?
I'm going to say it this way, and I hate generalizing it for everyone. There might be a moment of suspicion, and that is a protective thing that, as someone of color, we have learned over the years. I would also say the same for maybe someone who's homosexual or transgender or even overweight at the barn. That over niceness, which we might just be perceiving as over nice because we're used to either being stared at or being ignored. So keep that in mind too. I think it's a two-way street. It's coming in open-minded either way, coming in with some sort of self-confidence that we belong, that you don't have to earn belonging. And that's a huge part of it. Like, I've been in therapy for a long time working on this. I don't have to earn love. I don't have to earn respect. I have to just respect myself and know I always have a place at the table if I need it and want it. And how others around me react to that, I cannot control. So I'm just going to pick the people who kind of fit the narrative I need it to be a welcoming space. I'm not going to go to the barn that makes me feel insecure, that makes me feel unwelcome, that makes me feel like I'm not contributing something. I'll put my money and my time to the barn that says, we're so glad you're here. Oh, this is our lesson program. Oh, here's our Friday night event. That's where I'm going to invest my time, my money, my resources, my horse's well-being. But I had to have that self-confidence first to say, I deserve to be here.
That's a hard one.
It's a really hard one.
I struggle with it. And, I got a couple years on you, kid. It's
a lifelong battle.
It is. It is. But I think that, like I said earlier when we first started talking, that our horses are a reflection of the environment that we create for them. And we are very much a part of that environment. So as we heal ourselves, as we grow confident and comfortable in our own skin, in our own bodies, our horses learn to look to us as leaders more than just companions or friends or other herd mates. So their confidence in us grows with our own confidence in ourselves. And we attract our lives. We attract our lives. That's not victim blaming. That is putting in the work to heal yourself, to make choices for your horse, finding a place, like you said, staying where you are. If you're not totally happy with where you are and you can't find a new barn that's just right, sit tight, be patient, write down what's important to you. Because as you write those things down, they really become solid in your mind and then in your intent. And for what I say this all the time, whatever hoodoo is out there, the universe will respond and you will begin to attract situations just like the one you have. I'd be hard pressed to say that what you have attracted in this barn is coincidence.
I would say through a lot of self-work a lot of self-work and going through what I value in myself. Because, getting very personal, that's a podcast. That's what people love, right? I had a lot of self-hatred and I went through a lot of life changes. I mean, I separated from a spouse. I am in a kind of messy divorce. I moved across the state. I'm dealing with childhood traumas that I put off for so long. And I did it all within a year during a pandemic. Like the only thing I didn't do is get pregnant, Helena. Like that's the only thing I didn't do. It's a lot of life changes. And I realized I was kind of starting at this bottom barrel of I don't value myself. And I kept putting myself in these situations that clearly reflected that. And even my horse did not really want to be around me at times because I was so filled with negativity, anxiety. She's like, I don't need that. You keep that to yourself. Okay. You keep that over there. And so I started doing the hard work. And it's tough. And I don't want to make it sound like just go to therapy and you'll be fine. It comes in a multitude of places. It can come in free resources. It can come with just meditating 5 minutes a day or a gratitude journal, whatever you need it to be for you. And as I started to value myself and figure out what joy needs to be happy, what I like, where I wanted to see my life and what brought value and happiness, and not to use my name, but spark joy inside, things started manifesting to meet those needs. They would just kind of pop up and everything felt like, oh, I'm so lucky. It's all coincidental. And it's not. You manifested it by doing the work.
I've known you for a couple of years now, from when you first joined the HRN family to today, right now, looking at you through this computer screen, you look healthy, beautiful, happy, and like a woman who's ready to take on whatever the world is going to throw her way. There's always work to be done. And I do think that the hardest part of self-development is looking at yourself in the mirror or peeling back the curtain and saying, what's under there? And so many of us live in denial, or we create this, as on my favorite podcast, Hidden Brain, as Shankar Vedantam says, it's useful delusions. We live behind these useful delusions. Well, when we pull those delusions aside, then we start to see some of the stuff, the painful stuff that we have to work on. And so listeners, I would say that if you feel stuck or you feel like, usually it comes in this form. My horse has a problem.
Yes.
My horse has a problem. I'm afraid of my horse. My horse is bucking. My horse is running out. My horse is stopping. My horse is constantly lame. That is your symptom of something deeper. And if you start to turn the focus inward and be brave enough to say, I need to look at myself and do this work, I guarantee you that you will find a place as perfect as Joy has found for Astrid. So we can go on and on and on and on. And of course, we got to a fraction of the questions that I wanted to talk about in terms of horsekeeping. But this is how it goes. You cannot separate the humanity from the horsemanship.
It's a partnership. And I will say I've had horses my entire life. My parents were breeding horses as I was in the womb. So they've always been a part of my life. Getting Astrid, and I actually had an animal communicator tell me this, that our relationship was cosmic. It was not your normal, this is a horse who's going to be teaching me things, taking me through this next stage of my life. This was a horse who on a, sorry to sound so woo-woo, it's like a soul-bound journey. And I mean, I saw her on Facebook. I saw her in a trailer getting loaded up, and I knew I was going to end up buying this horse, even though I didn't want a chestnut mare. I didn't want anything under 16 hands. I wasn't even in the market for a horse. But I'm like, I'm going to end up buying this horse. And ever since that, it has just been this gravitational pull to each other in a healthy way. And she has changed my idea of horsemanship in so many ways. Patience is key. Love is key. Being open to learning new forms of communication, letting go of my ego. It is not about competition. It is not about how many ribbons I have. It is not about being the best or getting subscribers or 1,000 views on your reel. It's about a partnership, a friendship, and I think learning to see yourself in a different way, loving yourself. Can you look at yourself the way you look at your horse every day? Because if the answer is no, it's time to take care of you too.
Joy, tell people where they can find your show, where they can listen. And if they want to connect with you or find out more about you, tell us how we can do that too.
Our show is Retired Racehorse Radio. We're on any podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all of that. Our website is www.retiredracehorseradio.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Retired Racehorse Radio. If anyone would like to connect with me, my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Foodie Equestrian.
And we will be sure to put links to all of those places in the show notes for Stall and Stable. You can just go up to stallandstable.com. It's the first in our series in talking with other Horse Radio Network hosts who are, listeners, they're handpicked. These people are great role models. So stay tuned for more of these episodes in this series. Joy, thank you so much for this really honest and wonderful conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Helena. It's been a blast.
Well, that was a deep dive into some serious stuff. But, we can be serious people. We have to deal with the emotional roller coaster of horses. So there's a lot to unpack. Some days we're unpacking supplements. Other days we're unpacking our own emotional baggage. Again, my thanks to Joy Orr from Retired Racehorse Radio. You can get it on Horse Radio Network or wherever you get your podcasts. And that's going to be a wrap for this first episode in the HRN Host series. I hope you enjoyed it.